everybody, and thank you for joining me today. So, working on the window still. I'm up at the top part of it more this time, the part that's sort of more reddish than orange. I think the flowers are going to come in soon, but not today. I got more done than I thought I would. Yeah, a little less than my usual, because like I said, we're working on the house renovations, but yeah, my living room is not quite done. It's pretty close. I'm gonna get to start moving back in pretty soon, which I'm very happy about, because then I will get my normal stitching area set back up, where I have the seat worn to the exact proper groove. The one I'm sitting in now is, yeah, it's not quite right. I had to sort of put cushions and fold up a blanket on it to try and get the seat at just the right height, and it's not quite. So yeah, I found the other thing that has been slowing me down is that where I am stitching right now has carpet on the floor, and our living room is hardwood, and I have a hard time moving my craft stand back and forth across the floor. I didn't realize I did that quite so much, but apparently I do that, because normally on the hardwood I can just sort of slide it away with one foot and then pull it back, and with this I kind of have to put my hands on the actual like neck of the stand and move it that way, because obviously there's more resistance since it's on the carpet, right? So yeah, I didn't think something like that would make such a big difference, but yeah, it does. I just find it hard to get everything into position properly, and then if I have to get up, then that means I have to reposition everything, and that's a pain. So yeah, I am not quite starting at zero today. I had done half a dozen stitches before realizing that my tablet capture was not working, so I had to restart my filming. But everything seems to be working right now, fingers crossed. So yeah, I've been working diamond shapes, and I think this one is kind of a weird sort of diamond shape, not really. But as usual, I'm following the colors and just filling in from where I have established that edge, and we'll kind of see what we end up with. Eventually everything will get filled in. Yeah, like I say, I don't really stitch diagonally anymore. The big thing was because the peacock's tail was all slanting the opposite direction, and fighting it was just getting to be frustrating, so I decided to go with it instead of fighting it. 'Cause yeah, this should be fun. Yeah, we have been fortunate. Our heat wave is over. Not that we had a big one. I know a lot of people in other parts of the world got way hotter than we did. Yeah. So I won't complain. It's been pretty good here. And yeah, fortunately, there have been no big surprises with the renovations, because you just never know, right? Yeah, because my husband had to fix, there was some water damage around our living room window from our old windows when we only had the single pane, and they would get inches sometimes of ice on the inside in the winter, and then of course it melts and the water's got to go somewhere. And I mean, I would do my best to mop it up with towels and things, but there's only so much you can do, and some of the water would go into the corner and soak into the drywall. And so we were very happy that when my husband went to pull that out and make sure everything was good, there was no mold or anything behind it. So, because that was my big worry. Yeah, You know, whenever you have water damage, you could potentially have mold, and you do not want that. And fortunately, there was none. Yeah, so. And now with our triple pane windows, we don't have that issue anymore. Yeah, I was really impressed when we had a few, a week almost of like minus 50, 50, yes, Celsius. To give you perspective, minus 40 is the same in Fahrenheit and Celsius, and then it was even colder than that. Yeah. We didn't have a speck of moisture on the inside of the window, so they definitely did their job. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, fortunately, no big surprises. Yeah. I felt kind of bad because my husband had to do the painting because I am no good at it. No matter what I do, I end up with lines. And it's just not my thing. So I did help with some of the primer and that, but yeah, he ended up doing a lot of that work himself. So I said, do we want to fix up our little ensuite bathroom? He said, I don't know. He said, I'm kind of getting burnt out. I think we'll leave that until next year, which is fine. Yeah, I totally get it, because yeah, it's just the paint is, you know, worn off. You can only wipe it down so many times, right, before the paint wears off, and so it looks kind of shabby, but yeah. And they put a pedestal sink in there, which, well, they do look nice. I find there's no storage, right? And so we eventually want to swap that out for a sink that actually has a cupboard underneath, so that you can, you know, put all your cleaning supplies and stuff in there, instead of right now they're kind of sitting in tubs and, you know, not looking quite so nice. So but yeah, so guests hardly ever go into that one, so yeah, so we'll probably do that next summer maybe, because we were saying we do want to finally put in a shower downstairs, since we only have one in the house. But we manage, since it's just 3 of us. Yeah, us and our teenager, who is starting grade 12 in September, which is just, I'm blown away by. The time really does just get away from you. Yeah, I went and got some new school supplies for the last time. At least for high school, anyway. Yeah. Yeah, hard to believe. Yeah, and he's got a bunch of his credits for graduating already. He finished them last year. So said that's good, because that takes some of your pressure off for this year, right? Yeah. Means he can have at least one spare block, maybe 2, which is always nice. Yeah. Yeah, when I was in high school, one of my friends was extremely ambitious, and she only needed, I think, 4 classes to get enough credits for her senior year. And so we did 8, so she had 4 spare blocks. So yeah, she said it kind of sucked though, because we did all 8 the full year, rather than 4 of them one year, or 4 of them one semester and 4 the other. So she's like really hoping that she would get to have sort of one day off, but no, she was scheduled that 3 were on one day and 1 was on the other day. It was like, oh, nuts. But yeah, they kind of tried to say, well, you know, you could take some extra courses, so, you know, you have more options, you know, if you want to do post-secondary and stuff. She's like, nah, I just want to focus on the ones I'm doing and do really well in those. So yeah, and I mean, there wasn't really much they could do. She had enough credits to graduate, right? Yeah. So all right, so we'll do a bunch of this color. Yeah, as you can see from looking at the pattern, there is sort of another diamond shape kind of emerging here. It's a little warped, probably because it's supposed to be the way the window's shaped or something, but I trust the pattern so far. It hasn't steered me wrong yet. Yeah, I found a couple of times while stitching something, I think, man, I'm not sure about those colors, but yeah. Once it's completed, it looks good. There was one somebody showed in one of the Heaven and Earth Designs groups on Facebook that there was a lady sitting at a desk, and her leg under the table, because of the shadow, her leg was like red at first, and it was like, whoo, it looked so wrong. And she showed the picture of it, you know, sort of in progress. Pierced my fabric wrong here. And but then she showed after it had all filled in, and yeah, it looked perfect because that created the shading. So, but yeah, she said I was a little nervous while I was stitching that. That's for sure. But yeah, I stitched the blue dragon, and there was a couple of times, like there was a big sort of patch of purple right beside his mouth, and I was just thinking, I don't know if that looks right, but I persevered, and yeah, it was good. When I was done, I was happy with it. So yeah, that was my first Heaven and Earth Designs. I'm trying to think now. I did a little video of all my completed ones from before I began my channel. I'm not sure if I included my dragon in there or not, because unlike the ones that I mounted like tapestries, that one is in an actual big frame with glass, and it's extremely heavy, and I cannot lift it off the wall. So yeah, my husband actually had to reinforce the anchor points to the wall so it wouldn't fall down, and after that was when I said, okay, I'm going to find a different way to finish them. Yeah, that is the one drawback of stitching on 14 count. The pieces are so big that when you frame them, they get very big and heavy. Okay. Yeah, like even right now, this is a very rich red color, and you might not be sure if it would work, but then when you step back, it does. So. Yeah, so my next pass, I'm going to get more of the second bird, a peahen, who's obviously not as colorful as the peacock, but still very nice. Okay, mark that I did those. I don't like to have too many highlighted at once, or I can very easily lose my place. Yeah, when I used to work on paper with highlighters, I also kept a little ruler a lot of times to help underline exactly what row I was working on, to help keep me from getting myself mixed up. Okay. So I think I'm going to set these threads aside for now as I continue working in this, and then I'll probably go back to the top and fill some more of that in there. As usual, I will decide when I get there exactly what I'm going to do. Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna check how long this piece is. Not very. Okay. Let's see what else I have here. Still have a lot of this color to go. Yeah, no zeros. I don't think we're gonna hit any zeros until we're like 2/3 of the way through. I kind of browsed through my my threads, especially the ones that don't have as many stitches left, but the remaining stitches are like 2 or 3 more passes down the pattern. So yeah, it will be a while until I get there. Pardon me. Yeah, the zeroing out colors, that's fun. Yeah, my friend, one of my friends is working on Room with a View, and she's now down to the last 40,000 stitches, so yeah, she is starting to get those zeros, which are always fun. Almost missed my needle minder there. Yeah, we'll see what we get from this thread. Yes, this is a nice, like, dark plum color. It's really pretty. So yeah, that's where sort of this lattice work colors will kick in. So I'm sort of working up to there for now. I will fill those in later. Kind of working this area here from the bottom up because I want my thread to end back up there at the bottom. Pardon me. Yeah, it's not terribly smoky. Thankfully. Yeah, it has not been as bad this summer. Yeah, I remember there was one year the wildfire smoke was so bad that at noon it looked like the middle of the night and all the street lights came on. It was wild. Yeah. Driving home from work at lunchtime with, you know, your headlights on because it was that dark. It was nuts. Okay. Probably going to end up with more than one thread of this red here because of the way it branches off, and also because there's just quite a lot of it in this area, so yeah, and threads get used up. Ooh, goodness, pardon me. Yeah, so I know for a lot of people, they're in the US, their kids start August. Ours is September, and this year it's after Labor Day. Yeah, it sort of depends when Labor Day falls. We've had sometimes they start before Labor Day and then they sort of get a long weekend right away. But yeah, this year they're starting, because I think Labor Day is on the 2nd or 3rd, something like that. So yeah, they're starting after. Yeah, hard to believe my kid's gonna have his grad pictures taken this year. Like, what? I was cleaning up, I found mine, and I was like, holy cow, I was such a baby. Well, my mom started me in kindergarten when I was 4 turning 5, rather than 5 turning 6. So, yeah, I was always younger than all my classmates. So that didn't help. Yeah, I guess my kiddo's lucky. They will get to have grad ceremonies. I felt bad for kids during 2020. Yeah, I remember they set up a place where you could come and get your picture taken with your diploma, but they didn't get to have like the big ceremony that you normally do. Yeah. Yeah, that was actually my son's first year of high school was 2020, so that was quite the experience. Yeah. Yeah, I remember saying to him, like, I remember the adjustment to high school. I found that tough enough, and yeah, you had to deal with all the restrictions on top of it. That wasn't fun. Okay, yeah. So, like I said, there might be some branching off here, or I might sort of stitch in 2 directions. So sometimes I will sort of stitch downwards and then upwards and back and stuff. Sort of, if that's what makes sense to me, which I think is what is going to happen here. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Okay. Right, so stitch with this short one until it runs out, which will probably be pretty soon. We will see. Actually, I think this might be enough. Might be able to just get by with this strand. Yeah, I think I can get 2 more stitches with that last bit. So that's what I'm going to do. So here's what I mean about stitching in 2 directions. Yeah, I'm going to do these 4 here. Okay, and then park that there. Then I gotta fill in another couple of colors. Goodness, trying to find the spot. Yeah, from this point here, I have 5 more columns to reach the edge. So it's getting closer. Oh, just about to pass 100 stitches. Ooh, not bad. Now, there hasn't been as many colors, so that has helped. So then, like I said, then I take this thread and I'm going to travel it upwards and back. So I did downwards and back, now upwards and back. And this way I don't have to add another one. I don't have to attach another one just yet. I don't mind having more than one thread of the same color attached, but if I can avoid it, then I do. I think I'll have to move my frame over one more time. It fits, but I don't like reaching so far over with my left hand. It makes my back sore. So actually I can continue now stitching with this. Yeah, so this way I could snake the one thread to work that whole area without a problem. Yeah, it is really dark red. I guess it's supposed to be in shadow, so that's why. Now this one is not wanting to sit very nicely. Sometimes I will sort of come up and sort of, if there's a lot of white showing, I sort of add an extra sort of little quarter stitch in there to just sort of fill it in sometimes if it's really not wanting to cover the whole thing properly. And sometimes the way the threads get wrapped around each other, they can not want to sit nicely, but usually I find once it settles, it kind of does fill in. I'm not concerned with every last little bit of white showing. It doesn't really bother me because, like I say, when you're looking at the whole picture, you're not going to be super close to it, so it's really not that noticeable. At least not to me, so that's the important thing, right? If I'm happy with it, then it's all good. So yeah, here is where the next sort of diamond shape is going to start. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off here. I'm going to work the sort of lattice around it, and we'll start working the next area there. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm actually just going to unthread this. Because, yeah, like I said, I have to make a break somewhere. So I could continue working downwards. Or I could go back here and continue working sideways. And neither's more correct than the other. It's just a matter of preference. Sometimes I will choose to continue working downwards, and sometimes I don't. And it really doesn't matter because in the end, the whole thing will be filled in, right? So. Yeah, unthread that one too. That's done. I think this one is still threaded, so I'll do a couple more stitches with it. And then I'm going to go back up to the top. Carry on from there. Okay. Alright. I was kind of wondering where am I going to park this, but actually it's so short that there's really not any point. Okay, I could do more of this color. Let's see if I've got any leftover bits. Yeah, looks like I did. Well, I was kind of feeling discouraged by how I made not as much progress, but then I realized basically this whole window area was empty when I started this month, so it's not too bad. Still Oh, I went down too far. Yep. I realized based on my grid lines and this other part thread, something was not matching. And it could be that I parked the thread wrong, or it could be that I was stitching in the wrong place, but thankfully my grid lines helped me cross-check and figure that out. Okay, so yeah, more colors that kind of go all over the place. That is what I saved those little leftover bits for. So yeah, I was, oh, look at that. What have I done here? I think I marked, oh yeah, shoot. I made a mistake, didn't I? Yes, I did. I did 3 here when one of them should have been here. Ah, silly me. I bet you noticed too, huh? Okay. Yeah, something I did wrong here. Yeah, this is wrong. I missed this one here. Okay, let's take a look. What am I missing here? Okay, so I marked that one as done when I didn't do it. That's okay. Yeah, I didn't carry that thread far enough up. I bet you noticed too, didn't you? Yeah, and then I made a mistake with the other one. Okay, so I know what I did with the red. What did I do wrong here? Oh, I know what I did. I was down 1 stitch too. Yeah, that's what I did. Okay, so this should not be there. This one should be there, but yeah, I have one in the wrong spot here. Okay, well, I know that I just tied this off. So reach under and pull this out. Make sure I pull the correct one out. What I may do is I may just cut it. Yeah. And restitch. Yeah, I realized I was talking about checking with my grid lines, but I did not check closely enough that time. So, my mistake. You're gonna be a pain, aren't you? Well, I never claim to be perfect. I definitely am not. Silly me. Okay. Yeah. Okay, sometimes this can help me follow the thread more easily from the bottom. Okay. Yeah, I think this is a loop. That's why it doesn't want to let go. Okay. That's all right. I normally use a seam ripper for this, but because my stuff is packed away, yeah, I couldn't find it. So that is okay. I will fix this. All right, so try again. All right, and then I'm going to double check. That is where it should be. Yeah, okay, so. Yeah, that is what happens when I'm only looking at the shape on my piece and didn't realize that it wasn't matching the pattern. I didn't count properly. Okay, so let's try this again. So let's put that one there. So I'm doing this one and this one here, which are marked as done but aren't done yet. Because I had to pull them out because I blew it. That's okay. So there's a little piece that's sort of anchored here still with pin stitches that really isn't necessary, but I don't feel like pulling it out. It'll get stitched over and it'll be just fine. So no big deal. So that is done, fixed. And then I'm going to fix this one. Just attach a new long piece anyway because it is going to get used up at some point. There, so I'm doing this one here, which I mistakenly marked as done, but actually was not done. And now everything matches again. Some people might choose to have just left that color or even stitched over with the correct color, and that works as well. Since I had just sort of stitched the area and I knew I could fix it, I just did that. Okay, so now let's see, does this go any further down? Not close enough, so we'll use a short piece. Tell people who get intimidated, you know, don't worry. We all make mistakes. In fact, it was really interesting. My sister shared this one that I shared as well on Facebook recently, saying that there was a pottery class that had been done, and they divided the class into 2 groups, and they told one that they would be judged on quantity. So at the end of the semester, they would bring out the scales and weigh how many pots they had completed. And if they'd done, you know, X number of pounds, they get an A, this number of pounds, they get a B, and so on. And the other half of the class, they said, would be judged on quality. So they only had to produce 1 pot, but it had to be perfect. 1 clay pot, it had to be perfect. And the surprising thing they discovered was that actually the side that was being measured on quantity actually produced the best ones because they got more practice at it. They just dove in, started working it, and of course learned from their mistakes and perfected their technique, because there's really no sort of substitute for hands-on training. And that the ones who had been judged on quality were kind of almost paralyzed in indecision. They spent all this time sort of like looking up different techniques and looking up common mistakes and like trying to figure out how to do it perfectly the first time, that they almost couldn't start. And so it was sort of contrary to what you would think would happen. But they said, yeah, that's the thing, is in order to be good at something, first you have to be bad at it. You have to be willing to be bad at it. And yeah, I found that really sort of inspiring. I mean, of course, there's always the few savant people who are perfect instantly, but let's face it, most of us, that's not going to be the case, right? Yeah. You don't just sit down and start playing, you know, at a concert pianist level. You have to start with Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star and make lots of mistakes while you're doing it, right? Yeah, so I always tell people, yeah, these pieces are big and they can be intimidating, but in the end, it's still just lots of little X's, and if you can make little X's, you can do it. Yeah. And, you know, they say, like, you can start with a smaller project first to make your mistakes, but, I mean, even when you've been stitching for years, you're still going to make mistakes sometimes. Yeah. As I just demonstrated, it happens. The important thing is what you do when you make those mistakes. How do you fix them? Right? Yeah. So. Yeah, because it was funny. There was one lady who said her husband was getting interested and said he wanted to try. And she said, oh, so when, you know, I keep a little soft toothbrush. And so when you make mistakes and you have to rip out the stitches, you can just use it to sort of brush the little fuzzy bits left behind. He says, oh, I'm not going to make mistakes. Like, oh, honey, that's so sweet. But yeah, you are. I told that to my son because he could be really hard on himself, even though we never were. But yeah. And I said, you know, everyone makes mistakes. You're not a computer. And actually, in the end, I said, even computers make mistakes because they crash, right? Yeah. They get fatal errors and miscalculations. It happens. So you can't expect yourself to be perfect. That is not possible. Yeah, it was funny because they had that cloud strike error that happened a few weeks ago. And somebody said, well, you know, no one can hack your computer if it can't start. Yeah, they said that's one of the problems when, you know, sort of one company is responsible for so many things, right? They had banks couldn't work and they had flights were canceled and oh boy, was it ever a mess. I was sure glad I didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't even try to boot up my computer that day. Yeah. Figured I didn't have anything I needed to do that critically, so I would just wait until it had been fixed, which it was, like, the next day. But yeah. Yeah, they had, I remember they made a big thing about how this wasn't a hack, it was just, you know, a software, you know, error that had to be patched. But, I mean, somebody said, I mean, good, it wasn't a hack. Nobody's, you know, personal information was at risk. But in the end, functionally, it was the same, right? It did not work. Something didn't sound right there. Oh, yeah, that's because I got a knot in the thread. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I usually can hear it and or feel it when it gets a knot. Something just doesn't feel or sound right. There we go. It's nice and smooth on the back again, which is what it should be. So yeah, here's the lattice work here, and then I'm going to start stitching the next section there. Like I said, could work downwards, could work sideways, just whatever I feel like, and that's what I felt like doing. I was going to base parking that off of the other parked threads, but then I decided to use the grid lines instead. Because yeah, one problem with basing it off other parked threads is if I park one wrong, then I end up parking a whole bunch more wrong, and then undoing that can be bit of a pain sometimes. But if I always park sort of based on the grid lines, then I'm much less likely to make a mistake. I don't compound my error of having parked one wrong. A little further of a carry, so I just kind of did a tack stitch in the middle, just to kind of keep it a little more anchored. Then the carry across the back isn't as long, and I'm less likely to accidentally catch it and pull it and distort things. Back up again. All right. So yeah, gonna just kind of, looks like these colors extend a bit here, so I'm gonna probably just fill in this whole area, and then I will start working my way downwards. But I'll be wrapping it up for today pretty quickly because it's been almost an hour. I need to take a break and do some actual work. Some actual housework that needs to be done, which is not as fun, but needs to be done. Okay. So yeah, like I say, when I stitch like this, there is a little closing in sometimes. But I try not to close it on all 4 sides. I just find it easier to stitch that way. Because when it's closed in on all 4 sides, it can be hard to get your needle in there sometimes. Especially if you like really thick coverage too. Because yeah, people always say, well, how many to use? It's like, well, it's really a matter of preference. I know some people who, if they're stitching on 14 count, they like to use 4 strands. I only use 2. And you know, it's whatever you like best. Yeah, I can see now there's the top of this diamond was there. This is sort of the bottom part of it. top part was in the last pass. Now here is the bottom part. Oh, and I just realized this one part here, it looks like, yeah, I came up in the wrong spot. Yeah, I pierced the fabric wrong. Just fix that now. There we go. Okay. There's still, yeah, a lot of this color to come. Over 11,000 stitches of it. Yeah, it was not really a color I expected to use a lot on this, because I find your eye on this pattern is really drawn, of course, to the peacock, right? So you notice the blues and greens and stuff more than, but there's a lot of this color in the flowers and in some of the darker parts of his feathers as well as this window. Okay. Thing is snarled back there. Doesn't want to let go. There we go. Well, we're closing in on 200. What do you say we stitch to 200? I didn't start quite at it, but pretty close. I was like 6 or 7 stitches were already done, so it's not much of a cheat. Okay, I'm gonna check this other thread that is parked up here, see how long it is. Oh, that is a long one. I must have just added that. Okay. But I think we can kind of juggle both, so that will be fine. All right. Okay, so let's take a look here at the different, yeah, I'm gonna get threads all over the place for this part because there's a lot of this color and it kind of branches off all over the place, but that's fine. Sometimes that's just the way it works out. Again, so I got one thread that's going to go this way. I'm going to add another that goes the other way. Yeah, since this color is in the lattice work, so they branch off and wrap around sort of the diamond shapes. So that there. Okay. So just completing, like I said, that diamond shape there. And then, yeah, sort of starting a new one. To the right there. All right, we're almost at that 200 stitch mark, which I said I was going to stitch to. Okay, start a new piece there. Okay. So we'll actually go just over 200. Like I said, I didn't start quite at 0, but I was pretty close. So did almost all of them on camera. Okay, so there we go. Yeah, did over 200. Quite happy with that number. And I hope next time you join me, I will be back in my living room, but we will see. Thank you so much for joining me today, and hope to see you here next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.